Hey listeners, it's Paul Andriola here. Why not join our community at Small Cap Discoveries, where we offer our members direct access to some of the best microcap investment opportunities available. Our members are getting access to premium microcap financings, research reports, and direct access to management. Sign up today at www.smallcapdiscoveries.com.
Hey, welcome everybody to another SCD conference call. Today we've got one of our favorites, BeWhere Holdings is back. Owen Moore and Chris Panczuk, both here to sort of give us an update and give us a general idea how things look like going forward. So gentlemen, thanks for joining us today, and look forward to the presentation. I understand you got something a little bit different, so I'm just going to hand it over to you, Owen. Go for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And always great to meet with the guys. We've been a little quiet lately for the last quarter, but we just, and that's because we've been navigating a whole bunch of business issues associated with geopolitical stuff, but we're going to share that with you and walk through the presentation. And as Paul alluded to, we're going to provide some live demos of some of our more marquee clients just to show you exactly how they use our technology and some of the benefits they receive out of it. So thanks again for taking the time. I'm going to share my screen right now, and we'll jump right into it if that's okay. Okay, then. So some of these slides are being updated sort of live in real time. So if there is a little bit of discrepancy, I apologize in advance. We posted our numbers earlier this week, our year-end numbers, so we'll be reviewing those with the group and walking through how we performed across our key metrics, and then we'll hand it over to Chris for the live demo. I'll dispense with the safe harbor stuff. Really, one of the metrics that we follow really closely is our recurring revenue, and it's for good reason. Most of our margin comes from our recurring revenue. On our IoT devices that we sell and generate a monthly fee from, that's where all our growth is coming from, and the margins on that side of our recurring revenue business hover around 85 to 90%. On some of the other sides of our business, on the armored car work we do, the recurring revenue margins are a little bit lower, but they're marquee clients, and we're happy to have them. So one of the big take-homes of the Q4 numbers was 51% year-over-year recurring revenue growth, but we'll also get into the other aspects to the financials. We remain with a solid balance sheet. Cash was about 4.6 to 4.8 million in that range, but working cap increased fairly significantly, and we're expecting to see a big jump in cash as we move out to report Q1, and that's after we spent some money on the recent acquisition of Moore Installs. So a strong balance sheet and good solid financial position. I think that's key for companies that rely on exports to the US. We're going to continue to show growth, and we see that ramping as we move into Q2, Q3, and Q4. So we're excited about the possibilities, and listen, there's been a lot of softening in the rhetoric around trade to the US, and that's a good sign for everybody, I think. Okay, so this is one of the slides that I've been in the midst of editing, so I'm going to try and focus the group on the areas that I have up to speed. I think I have to minimize this a little bit just so you can see the entire slide. Shares outstanding 87.5 million, in that range. That leaves us with a market cap of about 53 million at 61 cents a share is the number I use. I think that's where the bid was at today. Enterprise value comes in at about 46 million. So if we take out the working cap which is primarily cash, if we take that out from the market cap, that leaves us with an enterprise value of about 46 million. Stock is traded as high as 90 cents, as low as 35 cents in the year. Like I said, I think we're in the low 60s right now. That leaves us with an EV to sales of about 2.62. And Trevor, you can fact check me on these as we go through, but I think that's the general ballpark for it. And that's reasonable. My feeling is that the multiples are on the lower end now, which makes it more attractive. And that's for two reasons. One, we've grown our sales, and two, the stock has come off the highs, so that all results in lower multiples for us. That makes it an even more attractive investment opportunity. If we take it to EBITDA to sales, I believe we were at about 2.1 million on the year on EBITDA, a little over 2.1 million. I have a slide that'll give us the exact number in a bit. But that leaves us with EBITDA to sales of about 21.5 times. And that's trailing, right, guys? This isn't, analyst projections on what we're going to do in 2025. This is the 2024 trailing numbers. So we've seen that EBITDA to sales come down pretty drastically as we've grown our EBITDA. And haven't seen the corresponding increase in share price. So once again, I think the multiples are in line for an attractive investment at these levels. I think I've introduced, and most of you guys know our team, but these are rock stars. I say it over and over again. These are the best of the best in the industry. We don't look like rock stars. Well, Margot looks a little bit like a rock star, but the rest of us don't look like rock stars. But you're looking at well over 120 years of telematics experience just on this page right here. Once again, our whole reason for being is to disrupt the asset tracking market from a price, functionality, and reliability perspective. So we are bringing out product at a fraction of the cost of competing products, and we don't look to make a lot on the hardware, but and we don't look to make a lot on the monthlies either. We're competitive on both sides. But as a combined solution, we're lower cost than anything in the market, and it continues to drive business for us. And so, when tariffs come in and companies are getting hit by 25 all the way up to 140%, if it's made in China, we're a made in Canada product today. We have room on our pricing to be able to handle that and still be well under the competition, whether they're getting hit by tariffs or not. You're all familiar with our markets. We track everything from porta potties to trailers to containers to electric bike share bikes. So all business to business and or B2B to B in some cases, right? We'll sell to AT&T and T-Mobile and Bell and our telematics partners, and they sell it to the end user. So B2B to B is our market, and obviously growing markets. And the whole concept with this slide is when you're dealing with markets that are, 60 billion, you don't need a big piece of it to be quite successful. So we like the fact that it's a large market that's growing and the adoption is happening faster now than ever. This is a slide that I didn't get time to update because it's static, but I believe we deployed about 26,000 units in the quarter. Over 400,000 units deployed since we've started our cellular journey, which is about 5 or 6 years old now. We have 4 main product SKUs in the market, but there are variants to these product SKUs. So even though the enclosure will look identical, some of the guts that go inside of these, have sub SKUs in them, and I'll touch a little bit on that when we talk about our roadmap. Actually, I'll jump right to the roadmap. This is a slide the group might be familiar with from our previous meeting. We had 3 main initiatives on the hardware front. One is to produce and sell a lower cost asset tracking to continue to drive price points in the industry down, to continue to cause pain for our competitors to meet our price points. And that is coming to fruition. We're very close to launching it. We have prototypes in the marketplace. The other one, our LTE Cat 1 Biz. So that's to remain cost competitive and to continue to drive price points lower, but still maintain our existing margins on the hardware. The other product that we made an announcement out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe, was our LTE Cat 1 Biz product. This might seem counterintuitive because this is a 4G technology, but what it does for us is it opens up markets where low power 5G hasn't been deployed. So the announcement we put out was expanding in the Caribbean through a great distributor. We're starting to see the fruits of that engagement. They're starting to work on a really large opportunity. And so the low-cost device is eminent in the market. Prototypes are already in the hands of some of our clients, and orders are being generated even in advance of full production. The LTE Cat 1 Biz product is in production, and we continue to work on the 5G integrated satellite NTN solution. We like that one because we think that one is, if you recall, opens up new markets for us. We have done all the design work. We're just waiting for some updates from our module providers to to make that fully functional. So that one's still a few months out, but the other two hardware products are either launched or imminently launching. On the software side, it's all about machine learning and artificial intelligence. All of these features have been rolled out in our platform and are providing better service to our clients, better support to our clients without us adding people. And that's the whole idea behind machine learning and AI for us, is that it allows us to scale and allows us to support our growing client base without adding a ton of support costs. So that all continues on its way. You're familiar with this slide. We have a handful of clients that we deal with directly. That's obviously not our main go-to market strategy. We like to go through distribution. We offload the sales and marketing and first level support to our distributors. And in return, we get access to their large sales team. You will see some additions going on this slide as we move out. We did get an initial decent sized pilot for a Canadian courier company. I won't mention the name, but just the fact that I said Canadian carriers kind of limits it down to one company. But that's that we're excited about that because we think there's big potential, and for a change, we have the hometown advantage on it, being a Canadian company and a bit of an initiative in Canada to source Canadian company technology. ATI is the other one that we like to mention, and they continue to blow it out the door for us. The orders coming in every week from them, and a real solid partner of ours. So we're always humbled by the level of support that we get from our partners. They have taken us under their wings over the years and continue to ramp our products into the market. And so much like the small cap discovery group, we're humbled by the level of support that we get from our partners. Okay, let's get into the numbers quickly, and then I'll hand it over to Chris. So ironically enough, we showed 45% revenue growth year over year for Q4, and we showed 45% growth annually on 2024 numbers relative to 2023 numbers. So pretty consistent across the last quarter. We saw a big jump in revenues from 2023 to 2024. About 30 some odd percent. We went from, or pardon me, more than that, 45%. We went from 12 million to 17.5, almost 17, well, just over 17.5 million. If you break that down quarterly, it was our second best quarter. Q4 came in at over 4.6 million. And so we're happy with that. We don't produce record revenues quarter over quarter, but certainly ended off the year on a strong note with a good solid Q4 showing. Breaking it down into recurring revenue, once again, the margin that we receive, the gross margin that we receive on our recurring revenue exceeds our operating expenses. That puts us in a position to continue to generate positive net income. If your monthly recurring revenue doesn't decline, and that's a number that should go up. Having said that, we do have some seasonality in some of our bigger clients that we'll address as we post Q1 and Q2 numbers. But having the margin on our recurring revenue exceed our operating expenses gives us good visibility into profitable quarters going forward. On the year, we posted 6.9 million in recurring revenue. On Q4, we posted over 2 million. So run rate on 2 million gives us 8. We certainly expect that number to increase as we continue to move out on 2025, but a fairly solid jump from Q3 to Q4 in the high margin side of our business, the recurring revenue side of our business. So good solid KPIs on recurring revenue. This is another little bit disjointed slide, but bear with me as I get through it. Adjusted EBITDA is on the left side, over 2.1 million on the year for adjusted EBITDA. Once again, that put us at about 22 times EV to EBITDA, which I think is quite a reasonable multiple on trailing, not going forward. On the right side, we have the net income broken down quarterly. We basically just under matched our highest net income. Our highest previous net income was Q2. Our highest overall net income was in Q2. We did 387,000. This quarter, we did 381,000. So pretty much our highest, like right around there. And while there is some variability in net income on a quarter-over-quarter basis, the trend is obviously there when you group it. Okay, I'm actually going to stop sharing and give it to Chris to run through some of our clients. And I hope you like this. This is, Chris is probably one of the best in the industry for managing the type of projects that he's going to show here. So I'm going to stop sharing and put myself on mute and let Chris run with it.
Hey, give me 1 second. You guys can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So Owen kind of touched upon two revenue streams for us, our MIoT devices and the armored space, we'll call it. So I'm going to start in the MIoT world where we're tracking things like trailers, generators, containers, and other things like that. And one of our larger clients at this point is Costco, and we manage all their trailers in every depot. And this is what a large depot looks like. It's kind of at a high level, these are all these spots here are all trailers, and every one of these trailers traditionally has a tracker on it. So from a general perspective of tracking their trailers, they use our solar device. Okay. And our solar device just gets installed in every trailer, and they can track the trailer. They can see where the trailer's been, what it's done for anybody who's kind of used to the telematics world. You start to get used to the dots on the map, and these two trailers are on the road, these two trailers are at the depot, these two trailers are at the store. We're helping them manage their turnaround time, their dwell time, all trailer related aspects. Okay, and they have 16 trailers right now at this particular yard. So it gives them good visibility as to where their trailers are. Okay, and like I said, we manage all the Costco depots. That's about 10,000 trailers across the US and a handful in Canada. After this, though, getting out of the focus on the trailers, we've actually started to move into their ocean containers, but as a yard management solution. So the trailer tracking aspect of the product is where's my trailer, where's it been? And the initial goal was to cut down the time it took to find a trailer in the yard. And then it kind of expanded from there into overall utilization and other elements like that. The next piece is a little bit different. And what I mean by different is that we are expanding outside the trailers. Okay. And I thought that might happen. Give me 1 second. One of the products that Owen showed on the screen earlier is called our Mini. Okay. And the B Mini, if you want to be specific, and they have 400 minis and they have 393 minis in and around the yard area right now, with 107 of them at the gatehouse. Okay. And what that does is, I'll pull up a picture here. And if you can see this picture, see this little black dot on all these ocean containers? Okay. They're all installed in roughly the same spot. So the ocean container, Costco doesn't own the container. Okay. So when all the minis are sitting in a charging station in the guardhouse, and when an ocean container comes in, they're actually scanning the bill of lading, scanning the mini, associating the two. And then when it comes time to pick the trailer of umbrellas that needs to go out on the road, they don't see this BMRA number, they see the PO number, which equates to the product on board the container. And the goal here, of course, is that when it's time to pick the umbrellas or the barbecues, they know exactly where to go in the yard. And they are now, the guys who move the trailers from the yard to the dock doors absolutely love the integration and they love the system. So we're not only just a hardware provider, but we offer an API, which allows customers like Costco to integrate the data into their own internal systems. Okay. And the keys to that, of course, are deeper penetration for one thing, and two, just a next growth level. So we went from tracking all their trailers for the last 4 or 5 years to this mini project is fairly new. We're just finishing our third depot, but they've now committed to roll out the others. A couple hundred minis per depot, and now they're using the BeWhere application in a more sophisticated manner. Okay, so when Owen was talking earlier, I've kind of touched upon the solar device, and they can see where they've been, what store they're at, how long they've waited for. I've touched upon the mini, and the mini in this case is like a slap and track where it's in a magnetic bracket. It fits in a charging station rather nicely. They take it out, scan, affix to the ocean container. Now internally, they use their own application to track the product on board the trailer. Okay, and that's kind of two of the products. The other ones that Owen showed earlier were the wire and our B10 device. The B10 device is kind of updating once or twice a day, just your general knowledge of where something is, and the BeWired is more of wired to the ignition of a piece of equipment, and it offers more location-based tracking or more frequent tracking than the solar or the mini might. Okay, from this page, there are things like a history page. I can look at where it's been, what it's done, all the general stuff in the telematics world. Changing gears, okay, for a second. What we then look at is another client who uses the mini, but not in the BeWhere interface. And people may or may not have heard of Geotab. It's a telematics company. We partner with Geotab and a number of other telematics companies. This particular organization is actually using the same device that Costco's slapping on an ocean container in a different application to track the shipment or the product on board the asset. In this case, it happens to be tobacco. Okay, and they actually have Geotab tracking the vehicles with a full security system, and they have a product tracker in the back of other elements to track the product as it moves between particular points of interest. Okay, so they're using the mini inside of another telematics provider's application outside of BeWhere. Okay, that kind of ties us over into the armored space. In the armored space, we actually, BeWhere can do software as well. We did our own application on the BeWhere application. In this particular case, we built what they call an add-in inside the Geotab world. So this is BeWhere's interface. Okay, and what we're doing here is we're working with the truck builder, we're working with the end user client, being Garda, Loomis, or Brinks, and we're building a sophisticated truck with Geotab's hardware as well. And what that allows us to do is Geotab doesn't traditionally have many inputs and outputs, but by adding a CAN bus module and working with the builders, we can now control the truck. We can kill the truck's engine, we can change modes, we can open doors. There's different things we can do remotely to monitor the truck. You will also see that there are alarms coming in from the truck that I won't play with because this is live. So someone just did a remote VIA. And they actually have a national control center that's sitting here monitoring this particular portion within Geotab that's using the BeWhere software to monitor the trucks and see what mode they're in, understand what mode they should be in. Are there any alarms? Is there anything else happening? Okay, so this is another piece for us in the armored space that Owen talked about earlier on as well. Taking them outside of, I'll call Geotab and BeWhere's CAN bus solution, we're actually adding in cameras now. So that same vehicle that has a telematics device in it, okay, and a CAN bus module to control the truck, now also has, get rid of these coming in here, a camera system that's monitoring driver behavior. It's doing distance warnings, it's doing distracted driving, drivers using their cell phone, other elements like that. Plus, it gives me the opportunity to live stream from the truck, and I can look at the driver, I can look at the cargo of the truck. Okay, so when this is tied into the what we call the all-off interface, which is this screen over here, the goal next is when an alarm comes in, it'll automatically have a video button here, which is virtually doing the same thing that I'm doing, and they can call out to the truck and see what's happening at the truck level in real time. So now we're combining three technologies. We're combining Geotab's fleet management tool that they've designed. We're adding in a forward-thinking camera solution that has up to 5 or 6 cameras on board the truck. and BeWhere's playing in the middle of both of those applications and writing software to integrate them all into one common platform, so one kind of dashboard, and giving them visibility into what's happening in the field outside of forward collision and not wearing their seatbelt. Are there any, sorry to talk fast, gentlemen, but sometimes I feel there's a lot to cover and this could lead to a lot more questions.
Yeah, so normally we kind of work. That was great, Chris. I appreciate that. That was really helpful. So the idea was to provide people with some insight on what we do for our clients and how we do it. And so I think Chris just did a bang up job of illustrating that with two of our marquee clients, Costco and Garda in this case. So normally we kind of hold on to the questions till the end, Chris, but I think we're going to wrap it there. And unless there was something specific that the group wanted either Chris and I to go into more details on for the benefit of everybody.
No, I think that was perfect. Yeah, as a reminder, everybody's listening, if you've got a question, I know there's a number of questions that are popping up here. If you do have a question, just use the chat function, and then we can make sure that either Chris or Owen can answer the questions. Why don't I just start it off, guys? Obviously tariffs. Everybody's been talking about tariffs. Why don't we jump on that right away? You made an acquisition a little while ago that you believe would help mitigate some of the issues around tariffs. Maybe talk a little bit about that, and then anything you can in terms of how you guys are being affected right now.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. I actually have some slides, like a lot of companies, directly on tariffs that I can share, but maybe I'll just talk to it. And if we want to go into more detail, I can pull up those slides. So we did acquire More Installs, no relationship to me. It's run by the president of the company is a gentleman named Cliff Moore out of the Pennsylvania area. He's been a vendor to us for many years. I think since we started 8-10 years ago. And he has a business that does both installation and service of IoT devices, of camera devices that you just saw there. In fact, I think Chris is in the midst of making Cliff really busy because he's got a whole bunch of cameras to roll out for clients in the next quarter. So that was one of the things that we liked about the acquisition. We thought we could drive his revenues higher by bringing more opportunities to him, and we're seeing that. In addition to the installation and services, Cliff also does warehousing and distribution of IoT products. So it gives us a US facility to import directly into the US. And as you guys know, we own all the IP in our solution. So we design and manufacture the devices. We write the firmware for the devices. We make the software that Costco and others log in to get their reports and to get access to their asset information. So what that gives us the ability to do is to import into the US from wherever we decide to manufacture. And some people have called this manufacture hopping. And it's a method that allows us to get product into the US efficiently. The challenge has been, it's been a moving target. We saw tariffs come into China originally. As we saw that, we obviously have the ability to have the product designated as made in Canada, non-USMCA compliant, but made in Canada. Our partners were certainly happy that we had a mechanism so that they weren't hit by Chinese tariffs. But then as we look for other sites to manufacture, including places like Vietnam, India, Taiwan, where we were in discussions for contract manufacturing in all those countries, we saw Trump tariffs come in at high levels for other areas where you can manufacture product cheaply. When we saw that, it only lasted a couple of days because those tariffs got moved down to the 10% level, but it didn't give us that comfortable feeling that we should move manufacturing there for the long term. So I think the take home from all of this is it's been very difficult to plan. And even though we have the ability and we own all our IP, to pull the trigger on changing manufacturing didn't make sense. So until there's some stability in it. The only place where there is stability is if you manufacture in the US. And obviously that's what the US administration is trying to accomplish. For guys like us, though, to move manufacturing into the US or Canada or Mexico and become completely USMCA compliant is at least a 25% increase in cost of the devices. So it was a wash, or in fact, we're better just to take the USMCA hit or share that hit with our client and remain status quo until we see what the final outcome of it is. We do think that once we get a new prime minister in place, whoever that may be, that the negotiation is going to come quickly. There's been some suggestions that we're going to see that 25% move down to 12%. If it does move down to 12%, then there's not a lot of benefit for us to change from a made in Canada non-USMCA compliant, because we know it'll cost more than 12% to change it. Once again, the good news for guys like us is we're at the low end of the market. A 12% increase for our clients, or if we decide to chew off a piece of that for them, isn't gonna hurt anything. And so as we kind of work through this process and have the ability to do made in Canada, our partners were super appreciative of it. While it did cause some slowdowns in Q1, we're seeing it ramp really quickly again. We landed an order just today for 8,000 units from one of our big distributors down in Texas that Chris and I were with for dinner on Monday night, and there's other big deals coming in. So it looks like we've been through the worst of it, guys. I credit our team. The big thing is to have a very experienced team that have dealt with issues in the past. So if we look back over our history, we went through COVID relatively recently. We went through the financial crisis in 2008. We went through the dot-com bubble in 2000 and 2001. While at the time this felt bad, relatively speaking, it wasn't that bad. Nobody was dying. The economy wasn't crashing into the floor. The stock market was getting hit, but the economy still seems to be chipping away. And all indications from the U.S. administration now is that there's a soft landing or a softening of the tariff issue, and we're happy to see that. And I think it's giving our clients some comfort to move out, and they've been happy with how we've addressed it for them. So a long way of answering your question, Paul, but it's a complicated question for us.
We certainly know it's complicated. That doesn't look like anything's easy.
Yeah.
The other big thing I wanted to ask about was, we talked in the past about this idea of moving away from sort of a sale of hardware and ongoing software, and this whole hardware as a service model. Maybe touch on how that's going.
Yeah, so we started that a little bit in Q4, but larger amounts as we move into Q1. That 8,000 unit order I mentioned, unless Chris corrects me, I believe that is covered under a monthly order where we have the clients commit to us for a period of time from 3 to 5 years. We do, have some costs to get them the hardware initially. The payback on the hardware is about 14 to 16 months. They sign up for 3 to 5 years and a lot of gravy after that hardware is paid off. So we expect that to drive, the auditors do make us recognize some of that hardware revenue up front, but it does drive a larger portion of that revenue to recurring. So that's a good thing for us. Anything that increases recurring revenue is more solid and more stable. And after 3 or 5 years, they can replace the equipment or they can continue to pay the fee. And you get an even higher margin expansion, once that term is over, everything's paid off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. I might as well throw this question at you now. I mean, you guys are always innovating. You've got a couple sort of new products that you've talked about, but what other initiatives, whether it's new technology or new models of doing business or anything else, what other new initiatives can we get excited about?
Yeah. So okay. So back to the roadmap slide. We are excited about the LTE Cat 1 Biz product. It is opening up opportunities in the Caribbean, South America. Some of you guys know that one of our board members is the head of R&D for Vodafone. We are working with him to help expand in Europe and perhaps even directly with Vodafone. And anytime you have a chance to bring on distribution and you have a product that will work in every country without an issue, it just makes life a lot easier. So we're excited about that. I mean, there's some initiatives that are ongoing that we might not talk about, but it's important for us. So, trailers have additional connections that would allow us to install, an example, our BeWire device a lot cleaner and a lot easier for our clients. It's not that we're developing a new device, but we are developing the cabling to be able to interface and if it's a solution that we bring to market early, show people that there's a quicker, easier, faster way of getting installations done. It helps us. And over and above that, the other product that still sits in our roadmap and isn't quite ready for prime time is the NTN product, the satellite cellular product. So we're excited about that. And there's constant development going on. Like the stuff that Chris just showed on the cameras is something that we weren't doing 6 months ago. He had some opportunities that came up as a systems integrator. We adopted them. We integrated them into various platforms, including Geotab. And it continues to drive the business forward. So those cameras and matching that up with some of the core data that we collect for the armored car industry is an example of continued innovation to bring better, stronger products to our client base.
Perfect. And then challenges, like any new challenges outside of tariffs and just the chaos that provides.
That's it.
Keeps you up at night. That's it.
That's it, guys.
That's only we can fix that. Yeah.
Listen, and this isn't new, Paul. I think we met in the summer, and that was one of the questions. Actually, that wasn't with the broader group. That was a separate meeting we had in August, and they asked me at that time, what's keeping you up at night? And this was even before Trump got elected. At the time, a lot of people didn't think that election was going to go that way, and we were still concerned about it. And we said that geopolitical issues and Trump tariffs are something that every Canadian or international exporter into the U.S. has to be aware about. And so I guess if anything, we were thinking about it and looking to address it before the administration came in, which gave us a chance to deal with this quicker than some of our competitors. And that was the comment from Powerfleet. So one of our big clients are in the telematics industry that we didn't touch on today is Fleet Complete. Fleet Complete got bought out by Powerfleet, a U.S. publicly traded company, for some $250 million. And in those situations where you have a big client get bought out, it adds an element of risk and uncertainty that you'll be the preferred vendor going forward. But he appreciated how quickly we were able to react to the tariff situation, and he let us know that they're not making any hardware. They are going to rely on us more and more. And this is a situation where our partner got acquired by a bigger company. And it looks like we're going to have opportunities with the parent company now that just expands things for us. So that's it, guys. It really tariffs have been on our mind for the last 8 months now, and now we seem to be coming out the other side of it. I think we're not alone. I think any company that relies on so here's the thing, guys. We can launch new products that allow us to address markets outside of the US, but 85% of our revenue is US based. We were never going to replace that overnight. We had one choice. We had to hit it head on. And I think we've done that. I think we've done a great job of getting through that.
Fantastic. And then just one last question before we jump into the audience questions. Cash. Your cash keeps building up here. A nice problem to have. But any changes and thoughts of how you're going to deploy that capital?
We want to do more M&A. We are using some of the capital to finance the rental lease model. So there are some areas, and we're continuing to look to the NCIB when there's opportunities there. And so those are really the primary purposes of it. We did slow down on the NCIB a little bit as we allocated some money to the more installs. But cash as of today is higher than it's ever been. I think we closed Q1 out at close to $5.5 million in cash, and financing the hardware for that lease model and trying to acquire some other companies and leveraging some of our cash to do that. I think I think is a good use of proceeds, as well as being opportunistic on the NCIB.
Fantastic. Okay, well, good. Let's jump on to some questions here, and I'm going to start with Rahil. You may just answer the question here, but it says you bought back shares at 62 cents recently. Do you have any plans to buy back shares at these levels?
Yeah, when there's opportunity, we will. We have our issuer bid with NCIB. We have cash in that account right now, and we're looking for the right opportunity. But we're having active M&A discussions as well. So really, it's a balancing act.
I know we've talked about this in the past, but when you talk M&A, where are you looking? Like, what is it? Customer acquisition? Is it technology? You know, how can we sort of define the pipeline right now?
Yeah, so we're not actually looking for direct competitors. We're looking for sort of ancillary companies that help us grow our business. And I think More Installs is an example of that, right? They're not a technology company, but they provide installation services for us. Our clients, he has a contract with UPS outside of our contract with UPS. And so that was sort of a nice example of where our focus is. We're in touch with, we've been in touch with contract manufacturers, and that's for obvious reasons, right? If you do want to provide pricing stability, the only way to do it is to manufacture in the US. So there's one company that we're talking to right now, and it's early stages. I don't know if we're going to come to a price point and a term sheet that works for everybody, but he does design and manufacture IoT products. He works with Verizon, which is one of the carriers that you don't see on our list. We don't work with Verizon in the US. We work with AT&T and T-Mobile. And so he has a contract manufacturing line. He does engineering services to create IoT products for other companies. So he doesn't get the benefit of that recurring revenue, but he gets the benefit of once he creates those products for marketing companies, he can run the contract manufacturing and generate recurring revenue just by producing devices. So those are the examples that we're looking at. Or if it is more directly related to us, remote monitoring is something that we like. We think those industries, like the company that you're involved with, Total Telecom, we think those guys do great things, Paul. We like it because there's some barriers, right? There's not a lot of people going after, as an example, river level monitoring, but it's got huge value to clients and high margins. So those are the companies that we look at. Is that a fair statement? I hope I didn't say too much there.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. That's perfect, and helps us understand kind of what you're looking at for sure. So again, as far as M&A, Curtis asked a question about the More Install. Do you feel that that's fully integrated, or how much more work do you have to do to get it in the right shape?
Fully integrated, there wasn't a lot to fully integrate, right? It's on the finance side, and we want him to continue to do his thing. But where we're going to grow that is by bringing our client base to him. And Chris is expanding the camera opportunity in the armored car space. That all creates installation work. And cameras are big installation work. If Chris is still on, how long does it take to do a camera install, Chris?
And these, we're doing 3 types of trucks. One's 2 hours, one's 8 hours, one's 16 hours.
Yeah. So, times that by 4, how many trucks you got on the go for him right now, Chris?
Between those 3 solutions, 120 in the last week.
Yeah. Okay. So those are, he makes more money off the installation than we do off the devices. That labor cost. But I didn't share it with you, but sorry, go ahead, Chris.
In relation to that, though, the things that don't really get highlighted are, as an example, he has a contract with Lytx, and Lytx is one of the larger camera companies out there, and he's been able to grow his business with Lytx now because he has money in the bank, right?
Sure.
So they saw him as an independent guy with 1 or 2 people that he might get by with. He has 26 contractors, and now Lytx has already signed him up for additional installs that they may not have signed him up for before. And then they've also expanded into Canada now, because as a US worker, he couldn't do work in Canada, but he has people up here. And now through BeWhere, we're doing Lytx installs in Montreal and Edmonton next week. So he's growing his base as well, not just his original base he's growing because he has more financial stability. We have payment terms with his installers that are better than what he had before. Before he had to wait to get paid to pay them, right? Now we're offering incentives for them, so more of them are calling on him. Do you have any more work? So things like that are not necessarily integration focused, but business practice focused, and we'll grow it. It's just I won't create excuses. Tariffs didn't help that either, not in the sense of paying them, but it changed somewhat of our focus, right? To dive right into installs to let's fend off tariffs and try the installation stuff at the same time versus let's go 100% installs. But as tariffs are settling down, so is our work energy and the installation stuff pace.
And that brings a good point. Like, more installs does have some seasonality. If you think about what he's doing, he's out in the field installing units. It's not in a nice, warm, comfy garage. So winter months are typically slower for him, but it's going to ramp really quickly. So we're super happy about Cliff and the work that he's doing, and he's good. It's going to work out just fine for us, and it already is working out.
That's fantastic. And if I recall, it wasn't a big spend either. So it seems like you guys are going to be able to get some pretty good return on that spend. So far,
and it fills out a business segment for us, the installation side. The other thing that we didn't mention that, well, I don't know, AT&T just got rid of, or their install. We're introducing them to other accounts. So we're excited about that.
Awesome. Okay, so next question I've got here is Rahil asks, historically, you've mentioned 30% revenue growth year over year for 2025. Are you comfortable with that range going forward?
I am, as an average. Yeah, Q1 certainly might not hit that 30% mark, but it's still growth. And now that we seem to have gotten through the heart of the issue on tariffs, I think we're going to see some strong expansion.
Gotcha.
We forecasted that last year too, guys, and we came in at 45%. So
yeah, you're sandbagging a little bit. I like that.
Not every quarter, guys. It's not an exact science, but
of course, hard to predict. For sure. It's only harder to predict in this environment, so I can appreciate that.
It sure is.
I
okay, feel like I should be wearing camouflage like Zelensky does. It feels like we've been through a little bit of a war, but
a hazmat suit and camouflaged hazmat suit.
Exactly.
Okay, Paulo asks, have you received any potential buyout offers, and would you consider them around these prices?
No, not at these prices, guys. I think we got more room. There's constant conversations. Like, one day we're looking to talk to a company about acquiring them, and the next day we have a meeting about somebody who's interested in us. But I have nothing for you at a value that I think we could warrant in not too distant future.
I think we've touched on that in the past as well. Okay, a couple questions have already been answered. I'm going to go to Cocoon. How does the 25% tariff affect your competitive position? I guess we maybe touched on that. I mean, you guys still have lots of room to play with in terms of pricing. So as one of the lower cost providers, tariffs aren't going to impact you competitively. I think you're still able to go out there and compete on price.
We are now, okay. Once again, there's not a simple answer, Paul, unfortunately, but for some of our partners where margins are already tight, we can't help them with it. It's an increased cost for, the time being, but it's not 145 or 245%, China hit. So they're appreciative that we were able to have options for them. Some of our clients, we've actually eaten the tariff up front, and we moved it into the monthly fee. So we've expanded the monthly fee, so we get it back in a 3-year time frame. And then in other clients where they're buying the hardware up front, we've come up with arrangements to split it, and so 12% hit in for the current rate that we're dealing with. But like I said, if that moves down to 10 or 12%, then this issue pretty much goes away completely, and we don't need to do gymnastics on manufacturing and look to move to other countries. Canada is just fine at 12%.
Well, in relation to that, we never had an activation fee before, but now we do. And it's whatever the tariff is.
Okay.
So it's a called a floating activation fee. And
I like that.
if the US government happens to go to the bathroom and come up with a new percentage, we have a new activation fee.
New pricing. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. We can be
Awesome.
just as, yeah.
Well, no, we're not changing our contracts, right? Our contracts now,
Right. Yeah,
our hardware price is still our hardware price. We now have an activation fee, and the activation fee is a floating tariff fee.
Right. That's very interesting. Okay, next question. Nolan asks, there was a 99K Forex loss in Q4. I would have thought
No,
exports
be
to the US.
careful with that one.
Okay.
Look below the next line, it comes back in, Nolan. It's a more in-depth conversation than I can answer right here, and I might need to get my CFO on the call, but we're happy to do that. You'll see it come out of one line item and back in the other, Nolan.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
It was
gotcha.
that was the that was the one benefit to all of this, right? Is the Canadian dollar got hammered. Yeah. And the net was a Forex gain for us, Nolan, but you got to look at the next line item down. But if you want, we can have a chat specifically on that.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, and big question here. Hassan says, what differentiates your company from competitors, and how do you plan to maintain or grow this competitive advantage over the next 5 years?
Well, you got to continue to invest in R&D, and our strategy is also to grow through acquisition. So if we can do 30 to 35% organically and tack on some acquisitions, and that's how we're going to get there.
Mm-hmm. And the impression I get as well is, look, one of your advantages is you're able to get sort of monitoring devices at a price point that opens up to markets that are not traditionally being monitored. Is that a way of looking at it? I
think that's very fair. I don't think you saw anybody tracking porta potties 4 years ago, right? It's just not a high value asset.
Yeah. Sorry, Owen.
Go ahead, Chris.
Because even to add to that, Costco didn't have a trailer tracker. They've been around for 20 years.
Oh, that was greenfield. Yeah.
Right.
There's still a lot of greenfield.
Trailers have been tracked for 20 years, but the price point was never hit to a point where people like Costco saw a reason to invest. Yeah. Right. And then to further on that question is using Costco as the example, by already having our feet in the door and introducing the Mini and now integrating into their internal system, that's how you build those relationships, right? Mm-hmm. The more integrations we have with UPS, we're integrated with Costco, we're integrated with the next client who is still in the kind of trial stages for thousands of units. We're integrating into their applications. So one is price point, of course. Two is that level of integration, having not just, we're a hardware, firmware, software company. And there are people that can buy hardware from China, but they can't make changes to it because they're buying hardware. We make our own changes. There are people that can't do a real cable project to measure the amount of feet coming off a cable reel, and we can tweak a device to do that, right? So that's where the firmware comes into play. And then by having that software control, we can either update our software to provide that advantage or update our API to allow that client to pull the data into their system to give them what they ask for. So having those three key pieces also helps separate some of our client base because they don't do all three.
Mm-hmm. And what I love, what I understand from you guys as well is because you're sort of in daily conversations, either directly with a customer or the kind of distributor. You guys you're hearing new pain points and coming up with solutions to fix their problems. So it's not like you necessarily have to go and create something and then try to find a problem. You guys are hearing right directly from your customers.
Yeah,
we are. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
With a new distributor, it's funny because the new distributor wants to protect his client, and we don't get introduced to a new dealer. But our dealers that we've had for 4 or 5 years, they take us into the meeting with them so that they don't have to play the middleman and record anything.
Oh, God. We landed a 300-unit deal today, and the distribution partner, who's wonderful, and we work really closely with him, they didn't even show up on the sales call. They just handed it to us, and when then they come back in to take the order and help with fulfillment. It is a sign of the depth of the relationships we have with those distribution partners. It really humbles us every day. The guys that bring us those hard requirements, and that's a challenge, right? The last thing you want to do is spin up a bunch of development for an opportunity that doesn't come to fruition. But we know when GeoForce brings us an opportunity, first of all, they're paying us a fortune in recurring revenue. So we're going to jump on it regardless. But second of all, we know that when they're bringing us an opportunity, they're in this industry. They don't want to waste their cycles. So they do the due diligence that the order is going to be there and often get the contract done before the development's finished.
That's
That's
impressive.
important.
Yeah.
Having said that, we have a wall of shame of products that, didn't work. And the reason we have the wall of shame is to remind us before we go on to another project and take on too much.
Yeah.
Humble.
No, that's fantastic. And of course, I mean, not everything's going to work, but it's good to have that dialogue that allows you to at least come up with new ideas here. Okay, so last part of the question from Hassan, it's I mean, what is your vision for scaling the business? And probably more importantly here, what resources or support do you think you still need to be able to grow? Do you have everything you need right now?
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's always important to be able to get good talent, good technical talent. But Alvin's been managing that. He does more with a smaller team than anybody that I've ever seen. And it's because he's hands-on. He's not just, managing the team. He's coding. He's helping with the electrical design. So that's really our focus, guys. We're an engineering shop to the heart, and we're not a sales and marketing shop, right? We're outsourcing that. We're good at lighting up distribution, so I don't know. I don't see any major issues with staffing right now. That might get more complicated as we look to acquire companies and understanding the pain points that some of those companies are going through, but internally what we're dealing with, I think we're in pretty good shape. I liked Russell's question there, by the way.
We'll get to the bad stuff later, but when you touched upon it earlier, the concept of I hate the word AI because AI applies to everything. We've been doing it for 20 years, but really in reality, the concept of growing an internal billing system, growing an internal support mechanism to put all our documents in something, allow our customers to type a question in and get an answer back, right? So we don't necessarily have to grow by people. We just have to grow by intelligence.
Awesome. Well put. Okay, we'll get to Russell's question in a second.
But wondering if you were going to hit us on that one.
I might hang up for that answer. It might depress me.
I'm looking forward to it. Consensus on this one. Actually, maybe I'll let Chris answer it. Well, here, I'll answer it.
I can give you a word, Toronto.
Well, okay. Listen, guys, when we started, we came out with a Bluetooth tracker. This was actually probably even before we got introduced to you and Trevor. And it was a great concept, guys. This is ultimately what Tile became and what the Apple AirTag became. We were on it 4 years before those products came out. We certainly didn't have the infrastructure of Apple phones to be able to do it like they did it. But we spent a good amount of money, and in hindsight, it actually worked out because we're using Bluetooth now to have devices communicate to our other devices to get data up to the cloud. So an example of this is we're currently working with Kaiser Permanente and their vendor called OEM Medical, and they have to provide cleaning of medical devices. So they have their medical devices, they run them to an autoclave, and then run them back to their facilities to be used. We're actually using our B10 device and the Bluetooth capabilities in it to communicate to another device that sits outside of the trailer that can get accurate location information. And so the two Bluetooth devices in the cab are our B10. They're monitoring temperature and humidity in different zones. They have requirements to monitor temperature and humidity. And so it was a perfect solution that we kludged together really quickly, and it could grow significantly. So, last year we might have said, those Bluetooth tags didn't really work out for us, but everything comes full circle, and now we're leveraging some of our older technology with some of our newer technology. We've created products, and Chris touched on this. We've created products for monitoring water pressure in clean water supply, or monitoring the flow of waste in waste pipes, and it didn't work out. We still have business, but it didn't hit the numbers that we wanted to do. So that our clean and dirty water monitoring is on our wall of shame, and live and learn. I think those are probably, Chris, would you agree with those statements? Listen, had we got the patents through on that Bluetooth product back in 2014, we would be a different company today. We didn't have the money to pursue it. Our patent lawyer retired in the middle of it, and we didn't get a good replacement, man.
Oh, wow.
But Owen, there's other, I don't want to throw lots of olive shame crap out there, but at the end of the day, sometimes we start on a path and pivot, right?
Sure.
So we wouldn't have bike share without the Mini, but the Mini wasn't conceptually designed for bike share.
Ja,
Right.
Das ist ein Trickes.
We wouldn't have product
Nein, Papi,
for that.
die haben Innengriffe. Ich habe gesagt Innengriffe. Das heißt richtig
Oh,
Schweizerdeutsch.
Nicholas, I think
Innengriffe.
it's Nicholas.
Ist nicht nur sie.
I think you're
Nein, kein bisschen
or
schlimmer,
Trevor.
Papi. Ja, Innengriffe.
We've got somebody that's unmuted here.
Nein, aber greift jetzt rein und
Nicholas?
nein.
Sounds positive to me, Trevor.
All good.
Okay.
Sorry,
All
guys.
good. I think we got it. Okay,
Well,
perfect.
on that note, our bike share partner is in Quebec.
There you go. May have been him closing a sale right now.
Yeah, they got acquired too, guys. Very similar to what we talked about with Fleet Complete and Power Fleet. We were working with a company called PBSC, one of the largest bike share providers in the world, and they got acquired by Lyft, and we managed to carry on the relationship after the
Nice.
acquisition was done. So I guess officially they're no longer Quebec, but we still work with the guys from Quebec.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, perfect. Well, okay. So last question I'm going to take from Curtis here says, it's in regards to the contracts you guys have, I guess, on the recurring revenue. Is there any inflation sort of price increase terms in there? How do you handle that?
No, we did have to do, we had to do a side letter. This is a trick in contracting. You put a contract in place and then somebody comes to you and says, wait, well, your pricing's here. And it's like, well, no, I got this side letter. And the side letter dictates, any overages. So, I mentioned that some of the tariffs we've moved into a monthly fee. And so we address that with additional either appendices to an original contact or a side letter to address it.
But in relation to that, we also bring down our cellular costs based on volume.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you get some margin improvement you can make one way or another.
5,000 more
Awesome.
devices and we hit the next clip level. So
5,000, Chris?
monitor it closely. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's big, guys, because we'll move. So when we hit a different price point on our wholesale data that we buy,
Yeah.
we might be at 18 or 20 cents a month today. When we hit that next level, and 5,000 units isn't a lot of units for us to get to, our whole price points on all our existing accounts comes down to 12 cents.
Wow.
So it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you times a nickel by hundreds of thousands of devices a month, it's
Sure. It's free money.
But we can
Free
grow.
money.
We can grow and not have our costs grow. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Looking forward, what excites you the most? What are you getting the most excited about as far as anything down the path here?
golf.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You can take that one, Chris.
I said golf.
Golf?
That's my answer. Golf season. That's my most exciting thing.
Yeah, well, Chris is good. My golf game sucks. So from my perspective, guys, the channels are bringing us bigger opportunities and more of them. And what we've seen, with UPS is it doesn't take a lot to really move the needle on revenues and recurring revenue, right? Both hardware and recurring. So we land one or two more of those and tack them on to our existing, and it's an expansion. So that's where I think there's plenty of opportunity. And I think some strategic acquisitions can also help move that needle. I've said to you guys in the past, we want to get this to 40 or 50 million as quickly as possible. And to do that, it has to be a combination of continuing to grow organically as well as tucking in some acquisitions. So we're looking companies anywhere from 1 to 10 million that can help us do that. They also, it helps when you're looking at those acquisitions because you're always going to allocate some of those to stock. And you know, even though our share price has been relatively flat lately, our results are improving, and so that gives those potential targets some encouragement to get some of that stock.
Yeah.
And so that's what excites me. You know, like I said, I think we got a good chance at another good run rate right in front of us.
And then Owen, what, you know, looking forward, what do you think are the most important things for investors to pay attention to, either catalysts or metrics or anything looking forward?
Yeah, listen, when we look for more acquisitions from us and news on that, that'll continue to move the needle. Keep an eye on that recurring revenue. That's the most important metric. That's the highest margin side of our business. As long as that keeps going up and to the right, then that's a KPI I would track pretty closely on us. Almost even more important than the top line that, you know, can be made up from hardware. And I think you saw that, right? When we put out the Q3 numbers, and I thought Q3 was decent, but, you know, the stock got hit a little bit. Well, a lot. And then, you know, we put out Q4 numbers. Recurring revenue was through the roof. Top line didn't hit Q3, but the stock went up. So honestly, if I could predict it, and if Chris could predict it, we wouldn't be working today. But we are learning, and we're paying attention.
Investors are hard to satisfy. You should know that by now, Owen. Like,
yeah, you guys have been great.
Oh, perfect. Okay, listen, this has been awesome, but I always like to give you guys a chance to leave a key message or key takeaway. What do you think that is today?
Yeah, Chris, do you want to take that one? I've said I've done. Thanks, bud.
No worries.
Listen, guys, we're going to keep growing, man. Keep an eye out on our numbers. We do have some exciting case studies that we're going to be putting out on our clients. So we're going to be a little bit more active, maybe not on the news release front, but on the social media front. So keep an eye on our LinkedIn and our social media and our website. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more color on why our clients, you know, decide to go with us. And Hassan, thank you as well.
And Paul, the last piece is, I mean, the biggest thing that for the goal heading into this year was to have the reoccurring cover our operating, and we're there. So like we'll set the next goal now, but it's a big plateau for us from where we started, right? Is that now we can grow differently.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been there for a large part of your growth, and guys, we couldn't be happier. I think you guys are doing all the right things. So congratulations on another solid year. Obviously, we're looking forward to how the next couple of quarters come together, and we're hoping for continued success. We've been speaking with Owen Moore and Chris Panczuk of BeWhere Holdings, symbol BEW on the Venture Exchange, BEWFF on the OTC. Guys, as always, great to have you here, and look forward to the next time we can catch up.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great afternoon.
You bet. Bye for now.